what's up guys, it's Coach Gaglione here, and it's another edition of our Gags Goals Updates, the Road to 119 series. If this is your first time stopping by, I'm Coach Gaglione, this is Gaglione Strength, and this is kind of chronicling my weight loss and strength training journey. I've been a coach and a powerlifter for over a dozen years, going into my 13th year of competitive lifting and coaching others. So this is just kind of chronicling my own training, and hopefully you can kind of get some tips and tricks, and also just kind of learn some of the methods that we do, based on the training that I do. I really always want to make sure I'm practicing what I'm preaching, so it's one of the reasons why I still compete and still train as hard as I do. As mentioned, if you've been following along with the series, I competed this past November at Slingshot Record Breakers, and during that time I did my first equipped meet at 220. I had a decent showing in the squat, decent showing in the deadlift. Had I had a technical kind of miss in the deadlift and a near miss in the squat. Bench did not go so well, so this is kind of going to be more of a bench focused update. For whatever reason, I still kind of can't pinpoint it, whether it was the travel, the weight cut, whatever the case may be. I did end up hurting my right shoulder, so for the past 6 to 8 weeks, I've been kind of working on rehabbing that and just making sure that's been kind of getting back to 100%, so I can get back on the platform and compete. Squat and deadlift training has been fantastic. I'm way ahead of where I was last year. I shouldn't say way ahead, but in my mind, way ahead. I'm around this time last year, I was weighing about 275 pounds or so, somewhere between 265, 275 pounds in that range, and I'm sitting between 230 and 235. So about 40 pounds lighter or so from last year, and my strength is up. My raw strength is up from last year, and my equipped strength is up. Some numbers are similar, but just the fact that even if I just maintained, and I've and again, if you've been watching me, I'm over 100 pounds down total all time, and as heavy as 340. So that's really good news. So I'm starting to really kind of relearn my body. I'm starting to kind of get healthy again, and things are really kind of going smooth. So the bench press has been really the only thing that's been a little bit of a stumbling block. But even so, my strength has been coming up week to week. When I first hurt my shoulder, I went to see Dr. Albury. He's out of East Meadow right now. He's helped me a lot. He's helped me out. Well, about 7 to 8 years ago, when I first started my business, I dislocated my shoulder doing some kettlebell lifting. So although this was what I would consider more of a minor injury, it still was, nothing was fully torn. There was minimal bruising. There was some bruising. There was some bleeding out a couple of days later. Nothing, knock on wood, was fully torn, but I still wanted to be cautious. It was painful initially. I couldn't even bench 135 after the injury. And like I said, this has really been my only, I would say this has really been, I've had some little setbacks here and there powerlifting, but I would say this is my first kind of true kind of powerlifting injury, especially on a platform. I've never been hurt on a platform before. I've had some issues here and there, like some strains. I think we've all had strains and stuff like that, but this was something where it caused me not to finish the meet, and I ended up bombing on the bench. Even though then Jesse Burdick was nice enough to let me deadlift, but I ended up not getting a bench in because of the issue. So I'm really been focused on just getting my shoulder healthy and stable. Like I said, between the weight cut, the travel, and everything else, maybe there's probably many factors that contribute to it. It might have just been the straw that broke the camel's back, but there's obviously a lot of added stressors, and I want to also really reiterate. It's probably not the best idea to chase performance while in a calorie deficit, but it's just something, again, my main priority still is weight loss and getting leaner, but I still want to be competitive. I still love powerlifting. So anyway, just a little bit of background information if it's your first time, or just to kind of recap some things. So this was a critical workout for me because on New Year's Day, I had some kind of personal stuff go on, so my head kind of wasn't really in a great frame of mind. And I just, and I was also very bloated from just the holiday cookies and eating poorly and things like that. So I was trying out a new bench shirt, and just the workout did not go well. So this week I got in my bench shirt again, and I tried the same bench shirt, and it really still didn't move, but it was better. It fit a little better because I was, lighter and less bloated this week. I'm back on my diet. But it still was a little the chest plate's too tight. I couldn't really get my arms out where they need to be. So I think that might be a good shirt when I'm lighter, but for right now it's not working. So I went back to my old black Phenom shirt, which is very loose on me, but I was still able to I just missed, because I had this on the bar, so I tried to do 455 with this really tight Rage X, which I think will fit me once I get into the 198 class. I think it's going to be a great shirt for me when I'm lighter. But still, it only kind of went down a couple of inches, and I didn't really feel like I was getting much pop out of the shirt. I couldn't really get it up in my armpit, so it wasn't really fitting properly, so I had to throw that out. I'm probably not going to use that shirt this cycle at all again, unless I make some sort of drastic change in my body weight. So I'm going to kind of hold on to that shirt for a rainy day when I'm lighter, but for now I'm going to stick to like kind of what I know. So I'm using my old black Super Duper Phenom, which I've used for many years. I've successfully, I've used that shirt when I was, over 300 pounds. I benched 575 in that shirt before, but obviously I'm a lot lighter. So I had to get the sleeves pinched and things like that because my arms are smaller. Anyways, I had a very, very close miss with 455. Now, granted, I might not have been as well rested as I should have been. I probably should have taken a little bit more time. I just couldn't quite lock out my right arm, but it felt pretty smooth. It felt good in my hands. I had no pain, so that was a big win. So I went down a little bit, and I just ended up, and it touched easily, so that was a good thing. I went down to 440 to a half board. Again, touched easily, felt like I was in a really good position. Lockout was very smooth, and that's like the most weight I've done successfully since the contest. So very happy about that. So my kind of general plan moving forward is to potentially use that shirt as kind of like an opener shirt, just something so I can maybe bench in the low to mid 400s, just kind of get in the meat. And then I could use my red Phenom, which I had used in the last meet, and I had to get adjusted, but I successfully had benched a 490 very easily in that red Phenom at 242. So I'm thinking that shirt will be good since it's altered now. That shirt will be good for heavier weights in like the high 400, low 500 range. So that's kind of like my plan, and we'll see. I have not tried that shirt out yet again since the meet, but I know that it's definitely a little bit tighter in the chest plate than the black Phenom that I have, the red Phenom. So if you are an equipped lifter, it's something to kind of consider having. I know someone like Scott Mendelson comes to mind. He has like different shirts, very specific for specific body weights that he is, and also like weights that he wants to do. So you might have a shirt that's good for like 800. You might have a shirt that's good for 900. A shirt that's good for 1,000. A shirt that's good for if he's trying for like an all-time world record, like 1,100. So that's very specific. And truth be told, the bench shirt is still something that I really struggle with. I'm definitely a more proficient squatter and deadlifter for sure, but definitely in the squat. Squat's my strongest lift, and I'd say the lift that I would say I have figured out the most, both raw and equipped. And then deadlift, and I've also been since I've struggled in the deadlift over the years, and I've been able to coach men multiple 700 and 800 pound male deadlifters and multiple female 400 pound deadlifters, and even like I said some females in the 500 range as well. So I definitely have a better handle on the deadlift and the squat. The bench press, especially equipped, is something that I'm still struggling with and still could use some help on over the years. So I'm trying to learn more from other people. I'm trying to have an open mind, because it's something, especially with myself, I feel like I have a good build to have a good bench, but I think my technique and some of my weak points, some old shoulder injuries I've had in the past through like wrestling and football, and through just some others. Like I said, I mentioned dislocated my shoulder doing some kettlebell lifting. So I still have some work to do, but that being said, hitting 440 was a huge accomplishment. Like I said, it was like the most I've done since the meet, the most I've done since hurting my shoulder, and all my weights have been kind of going up and up. In addition to building up my raw strength, I'm also going to try to build up my slingshot strength. My slingshot training is definitely something that I feel has a very high carryover to my shirted bench. So I also elected to partake. I signed up for the slingshot. What is it called? Super Training Classic. That's what it is. Super Training Classic. Last year I did some commentating for it, and I helped out, set it up and everything. It's also an excuse to see my friends Mark Bell and Chris Bell, the whole Bell family, and Jesse Burdick, and all the crew at Super Training Gym. So it's an excuse for me to kind of get away for a couple of days and have some fun, but also allow me to use that as a training session. So even though it is a meet, participating in the slingshot bench, it's not something that I don't really take as much of a high priority. I consider that more of like a fun meet, and not something I'm going to put as much pressure on myself for, but it's still something I'm going to want to do well. I'm going to want to train for, and by increasing my slingshot max, that's going to have a good carryover because it's going to kind of mimic the same groove and the same kind of positions and the strength curve that I'm going to have. The bench shirt helps you in the bottom, just like the slingshot does. The only difference is the slingshot's obviously less technical than a bench shirt, but you're not going to get as much carryover from it. But it's still going to kind of overload your bench and work your triceps more. So I thought that would be a great kind of opportunity. So that's going to be, I think, the second week in February. I'm looking forward to that. So if I can kind of improve, last training cycle I did 400, again with nothing earth-shattering, but that's what it is. Not near my best, but I did 400 in the red slingshots. If I could do something over 400 at the Super Training Classic at a lighter body weight, that would be a win for me. It'll put me in good position to hit a PR bench and have a good total come my next meet in April. After my equipped work, after my shirted work, I just did some back down sets. My raw and my back down sets did not feel as good this week, but maybe just because I had a couple of extra sets in the bench shirt, but did 345 for a triple. I think I'm probably going to need to get a new Mad Dog slingshot because I feel like I'm getting less carryover out of that than my original slingshot at this point. So might need to get a smaller size, whatever. And as far as with the Mad Dog slingshot as well, I don't really, unless you're like maybe like a 500-pound raw bencher or like a 450-pound raw bencher, it's really, I would say it's more of a good tool for an equipped lifter. That's just kind of some, because it does give you a lot, but mine is very old. It's probably like 6 or 7 years old at this point. So it's just not giving me as much pop as normal. So I want to, even like my new red slingshot, my new original slingshot's giving me, I feel like it's giving me more carryover. So I think I need to size down and maybe get a new one just to get some more overload training as well. That'll help kind of carry over to my bench shirt. It's just, again, the slingshot's a great way to increase your volume. And just, we have some recommendations, but if you're like kind of under a 400 raw bencher and you're a male, I think most of your goal is more of a raw bench press. I think the reactive slingshot is plenty of help. It's going to keep your groove a little bit better. If you're over a 400 raw max, somewhere between like 400 to 450, even upwards of 500 pounds, I think the original is plenty. If you're over a 500 pound bencher, if you're someone like Larry Wheels, who's benching 550, 600, then a Mad Dog might be appropriate here and there. But in general, I think most of the time, if you're a raw lifter, sticking to the reactive is probably a good idea. If you're a female or a lightweight male, definitely sticking to the reactive is probably a better idea. Even a loose reactive is good, just so it's not giving you too much overload and it's not going to change your form too much. The tighter the slingshot, the stiffer the material, it's going to feel more like a bench shirt, and it's going to kind of tuck your elbows in a little bit more, so it's not going to have as of a natural of a groove as a raw bench press. But that being said, I do love the slingshot for overload. I do love the slingshot to increase the amount of volume you can handle, and it's going to allow you to keep your shoulders healthy and protect you in the bottom position of the bench. So great tool, something we use with all our athletes, both raw and equipped. Just you want to use the right tool for the right job. So if you're an equipped lifter, you could use a Mad Dog or an original slingshot. If you're a raw lifter, probably sticking to more of the reactive slingshot the majority of the time, in my opinion. They also have a slingshot sport, which could be a good option as well. After I did a slingshot down set, I did a set just with 285. Did a couple of reps there. Still, again, I was just probably a little fatigued from the other work. And then after that, I still need to kind of improve my bottom end strength and my chest strength overall, especially with the shoulder injury. As I get closer to the contest, I'll focus a little bit more on board work and tricep work. But in the earlier phases of training, which might be opposite for a raw lifter, for an equipped lifter, I'm going to focus a little bit more on chest and bottom end strength, because that's going to be a good foundation. And then I'll get more specific with board work and slingshot work, tricep focused training as we get closer to the contest. So I did some feet up benching with a wide grip with the Duffalo bar. The Duffalo bar is a cambered bar, so it's going to increase the range of motion. So I did some sets of 5 there. Then I did a couple of sets of Spoto press as well with the Duffalo bar, which is going to also increase the range of motion, since the camber is also going to make it a little bit unstable and a little bit more challenging than a straight bar. So I did a couple of sets there, finished up with some upper back work, and then kind of called it a day. So I know that was really long-winded, but I was really happy. And I think it's really important, if you do have some sort of bumps and bruises, some sort of injury, some sort of setback, it's good to put things in perspective. So even though that I'm not really 100% on my bench, I'm way ahead of my squat and my deadlift training, so I'm trying to focus more on those things. So that's been really positive. Like I said, this past phase, I hit 700 pound squat and just knee wraps and briefs, so that's a huge win for me. Did a very smooth 585 deadlift, so those like numbers are like I'm way ahead of schedule on my squat and my deadlift training, and even though my bench is a little bit behind, I wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to bench heavy for at this point in training because of the injury. So I'm very happy with how things are going. It's always important you think about, you want to always be the tortoise, not the hare. Slow and steady wins the race. To pace yourself and just try and progress a little bit each week, because before you know it, like I said, now I'm back to 440. And like I said, if in hindsight, I would have loved to have just got a 440 bench at my meet and got a total, so like even though I kind of overextended myself a little bit at the last meet, 220, I'm not going to make the same mistake. So I'm going to come in with a different strategy for bench and kind of correct those mistakes moving forward. So that was my bench update. Thank you guys for watching so much. Definitely check out the links below. And thank you guys. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon. It's like they knew. They just knew.
Yeah, they knew.
They just like, you need to be done now.